So there's no council roundup today because there was no council meeting last night. But we're still going to talk city business here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And to talk city business, Springfield Mayor Jim Langfelder in studio with us. Mayor, thanks for taking time.
Well, good morning. I know it's not as exciting as the council roundup, but it's the best we could do.
We'll take it. We will take it. I see you're wearing the colors of Ukraine. I have this clip somewhere in the archives of one of the Ukrainian officials in Springfield actually doing a council roundup promo. I'm going to have to go find that, but it's some pretty serious situations they're in over there right now.
No doubt about it. And I thought maybe it might have been the mayor, Fedorov, that was captured. I thought he might have came into your studio. I know there was a delegation. One of our final delegations was from Ukraine, not that one. That came in 2018. But before the pandemic, we did have one from Ukraine, and it's really heart-wrenching to see what's happening over there.
What, if anything, can the people of Springfield do? And have you heard or seen any Ukrainian refugees coming to town or helping facilitate that at all?
Well, we have a sister cities organization that's active amongst other ones. The only one that I know has a direct sister city relationship is in Rockford. But what people can do is more of awareness, making it known that it is important to stand up to democracy, for freedom. And then that registers not only to the state level, but the federal level. And thankfully, Senator Durbin, he was one of the first ones to advocate supporting the Ukrainian effort and with humanitarian and military needs to help them defend their country.
We're talking with Springfield Mayor Jim Langfelder live in studio in place of the council roundup to talk some city business here on WMAY. So obviously people are going to keep Ukrainians in their hearts and in their prayers. It's just horrible what they are going through. And it obviously is impacting a whole bunch of things from the cost of gas to supply chain issues and so on. But Mayor, let's get into some specific city business. There was some controversy with this union contract for the fire department when it comes to a new provision that has some people concerned. Talk about the elements allowing for a certain level of THC testing. If somebody is to take a drug test, for instance.
Right. We do spontaneous testing on a nobody knows when they'll be tested, but according to the contract, they cannot partake 36 hours before coming to work, and it pairs up more in line with other civil service workers in the city of Springfield. But the police department, those that have a CDL license, those are pretty much governed under federal regulations. The rest are really governed under the state regulations, which allows recreational use. So that's where the language that the union wanted to put into the contract. I was brought in at the tail end, try to, before arbitration, and asked, one, I wanted to have, give the chief more flexibility in leading the department forward. They weren't receptive to that and weren't receptive to any changes associated with cannabis, things of that nature. So really the last sticking point from that standpoint to avoid arbitration was wages. And we were able to come to a conclusion on that, which I'm glad of, because it's time to move on and, go from there. But there'll be testing and things of that nature. So what an individual does on their own time, I understand the concern. I was concerned as well. What type of message does that send? Things of that nature. But
are there still liability issues if somebody does test positive over a certain threshold and they're on the job?
Correct.
So they could still be held
no doubt about it. Yeah,
fired.
you cannot be inebriated, whether it's alcohol or cannabis or some other drug. You cannot be inebriated, and that's for any city employee. So we do that testing and. The challenge for
but what this does essentially is it takes away the zero tolerance policy.
Right.
Okay.
And on that note, really, I don't think there's a test that will show if you've been clean for the last 24 hours or something of that nature. So I think that is on the forefront, but to my knowledge, I don't think that's come to fruition yet.
We're talking with Springfield Mayor Jim Langfelder here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop, and Mayor, we've got, of course, the city budget that's in place. You've got even the federal tax funds for the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. How much is left in this first tranche? When do we get the second tranche? And what are the ultimate plans going to be to spend upwards to what, $32 million or so?
Right, $34 million and both $17 million tranches. And we have dollars allocated, but they will have to be appropriated through the city council to actually come across as officially spent. So from that vein, we've had appropriated through sewer projects with regards to revenue replacement. We have a microloan program that's been leveraged with the private industry. And then things of that nature, I think we have probably $6 million left. So that'd be up to $28 million allocated. But again, we'll have to come forward with to any type of expenditure to the city council. The ones that have been allocated and spent, the $1.4 million going back to reimburse the overtime and associated with the fire department. Also about $700,000 going to the Convention Visitors Bureau for revenue lost, and then the sewer project around the lake and moving that direction, and then of course the loan program. So roughly right now, I'm just estimating probably about $5 million has been processed through the city ordinance validation of the expenditures.
When it comes to projects around the city, of course, the Y Block, we heard a little bit about that and some kind of draft plans that are put out there, some sketches, some concepts. What's the goal there?
Well, we're going to activate the space, and that's been wanted. That was the original proposal, but everybody wasn't quite sure at that time. The Levitt Concert Series with downtown Springfield really ramped up everybody's understanding of what can transpire there, and other communities have done this.
Well, and it put them right in the middle of town where you see the governor's mansion, you see the Capitol, you see just the glory of downtown Springfield. It's a beautiful spot.
Right. It's the heart of Springfield. And if there's ever a building that goes on there, the initial footprint will be, of course, water features and more of the concert venue type activities. But if there's ever a building that would go on there, it'd have to be on the 5th Street side of the corridor. So it, so it doesn't block Capitol Avenue view. And then you have the view of the Capitol with the rooftop terrace, something of that nature. But the phase one is just the redevelopment of that space. And we applied for a Main Street grant. And we're also seeing if that doesn't come through, can we get it in the budget with the state legislature?
Springfield Mayor Jim Langfelder here on Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop, and from one part of town that's going to see some development, hopefully, to the opposite side of town that people have been calling for something to be done, Pillsbury. Mm-hmm. What's going on there? Well,
we actually had a discussion with someone of interest, but they want to see it cleaned up. And so it's my understanding that the Moving Pillsbury Forward group wanted to take it over. I think they were looking at possibly doing a quick claim deed or having the deed turned over to them. The challenge there, though, is, what do you do with it once you have it? And our concern is, are we letting the previous owner off the hook, so to speak? So we do have a lien on the property, trying to hold the individual, the prior owner, responsible to a certain degree, regardless of what the courts decide. But what we need to do next is a phase 2 study, environmental study, and that will tell you what exactly the cleanup costs could be. And so we've impressed upon the group and other, organizations like the counties involved, SSGA is involved. SSGA actually said they would partner with us to do the phase 2 study. They may go as far as funding it themselves, which we're a partner in that. But that's the next step is the phase 2. And then after that, it gets it ready so you can apply for federal funds or state funds and other resources to clean up the area.
Springfield Mayor Jim Langfelder here. You talked about just briefly something you were looking possibly to the state capitol to do, dealing with the Y Block, possibly finding some funding mechanism there. But the legislature's in session till April 8th. They may go over, who knows? I mean, it's not beyond the state house to have us in during, the 4th of July. I remember that back in 2017. What a 17-day stretch of session days that was when they had the budget impasse. But they're set to adjourn April 8th. Mm-hmm. What are they getting done anything that's going to help benefit the city of Springfield? I know you raised concerns about some law enforcement issues. Touch on that. Have you heard of what's going to transpire and what else could happen that you want to see the state do for the city of Springfield and other municipalities?
Right. Well, your timing's good. Today's Illinois Municipal Lobby Day at the legislature. So actually, the governor, Speaker Welch, and others are going to be at their venue. I think it's at the Hoagland Center this morning. But we do have meetings lined up with legislators and going over there to tout what's important to us. Probably the top of anybody's platform would be the LGDF. That's the Local Government Distributive Fund. We used to get a dime on the dollar. Now it's down to 8 cents, I think it is, or 8%. And so, or I'm sorry, 6%. And we're trying to get it up to 8%. So that's one initiative we'll push from a statewide initiative. For us locally, though, we're trying to get the SHA TIF extended, and that's the old Madison Park Place, the old John Hay homes, I should say. But extending that, the boundaries have been extended to envelop Pillsbury, but we want it extended another 15 years, and that takes letters from the county, sanitary district, Capital Township. We've been through this before,
right. Yep.
And it's the
gotta get all the taxing bodies because they're impacted by it.
Right, and so we have all of them except for those three, and of course they'd like to see a plan, but it's all about just drive through there. Need housing redevelopment and Pillsbury rectified, and then that leads into Lanphier and Robin Roberts Field, so that whole area is of importance. So hopefully we'll get those letters and then be able to pass that before the April 8th deadline. The other thing, of course, of significance for us is broadband and making sure that the cities are included in the broadband initiative, because we're kind of unique with our own fiber through CWLP, and how we can make sure we provide those services in the inner core of the city, and that would impact the medical community to a greater level than what we currently do, as well as the east side. And then UIS, we're trying to get funding released for the Innovation Center to finally be able to buy their building. I think there's $15 million in this budget, but if they do not allocate it, we want them to extend it over to next year's budget that they will be discussing and passing prior to the July 1st budget season.
And then finally here, earlier this month, 24/7 Wall Street, they put out numbers showing that violent crime rose in Springfield in 2020. What's being done to help address those issues? I know we've heard from the new police chief and some of the things he's doing and some of the stats that we've heard reported. What can the State House, if anything, do to help with this situation?
Well, one thing they are doing right now is LPRs along the interstate highway and the on and off ramps. And that's a camera system we're employing within the city itself. And it's more up north, but we want them to extend it downstate, of course, and then actually allow greater flexibility with usage. It should be tied to any gun usage or drug activity, things of that nature, and they'll really take a bite into it. One area I'm concerned about, though, is the zero cash bond bail. That doesn't take effect till January of next year. And so that's of concern. So that's something what do
you feel that that's going to ultimately mean when that does take effect, if they don't modify it?
Well, that's something that the chief could expound upon, or Dan Wright, the state's attorney. But there is concern that an individual that creates crime, that you aren't able to hold them for a period of time, that you have to release them on zero cash bail. So that's not a good situation. I think they should be flexibility within that legislation, but that's something they could answer. But with regards to the report, Chief Scarlett gave a report to the city council, and our numbers went down on violent crime, things of that nature. But the other thing we're doing locally is trying to create activities for our young people. There's some young individuals in teenage years, or maybe even before that, they're going by the pathway of the gangs, and we want to kind of circumvent that and get them more engaged in positive community activities. And that's what really goes with the programming, the school district, with their expansion happening. They have a program with Lanphier High School, and how do you get them involved in the trades, things of that nature. But we're looking at Comer Cox Park, that whole area, turning it into a teen empowerment zone, and really creating that positive activity and mentorship, things of that nature for our young people, so they go the right path in life.
Springfield Mayor Jim Langfelder, that's all the time we've got. I've actually blown through the time for news, so we got to head to that now. So I appreciate you taking the time. We'll definitely connect again soon to talk more city business, all right?
Great. Have a great day.
You too. It is the WMAY Morning News.